Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today we're going to be talking about the Active Eco feature on your vehicle, and we're going to be talking about what it is, what it isn't, and how to properly use it to get the most out of it to make your car more efficient. Let's go ahead and get started. Normally this button is located just below the steering wheel. See, here's the steering wheel right here. It's usually to the right or left, somewhere in that vicinity. And all it is it's a push button. You just turn it on, turn it off, and then you'll see the indicator on the actual cluster panel. That'll come on. You'll have a green eco that shows up when you push it, or when you push it again, you'll see it go out as seen here. When it's off, you'll see it as shown here with nothing, and then when I push it on, that indicator lets me know that the Active Eco is now activated and it is turned on. Now, unlike some features on cars where they have different things that'll kick in, this one here is completely controlled by the driver. So you have full control to turn it off, turn it on, things like that. So that's why it's so important to understand what exactly it does, when to use it, when not to use it. That way you're not having it operating when it's really not the most effective for you, and if you're not using it when you really should be using it. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about what it is and what it isn't. And then from there, we're going to take the car on the road, and I'm going to show you kind of how it performs so you can see the difference, and then we'll conclude this video. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is what the Active Eco is not. And it is not, and not to be confused with, EcoBoost, which is an engine that Ford makes, which is a turbocharged EcoBoost engine. And basically what that does is that gives you more power like a typical turbocharged engine, but because of the EcoBoost, they can do it on a smaller engine, so you're not jeopardizing the fuel economy. You're not winding up with a gas guzzler, but you're still getting the power that's needed. This is not that at all. This does not give you any kind of turbo boost or any kind of boost or anything, but rather what that does with the Active Eco is that manages the performance of the vehicle that you already have and tones things down as needed, so that way you get the best fuel economy and the best performance out of the vehicle. So now let's talk about Active Eco and what that is and how to properly use it. Now, the Active Eco, primarily what that does is that targets your engine and your transaxle. So you'll see a reduction in your throttle. So if you're riding on a road with a lot of stop and go, you don't want to have that on, because what's happening is as you're coming from a stop and taking off, you're going to notice that there's a sluggishness to your engine. I mean, it's not major. It's not like your car's stalling or anything, but you'll notice that the response is not as quick. Or when you have it off and you're just driving just normal without any restrictions on it, you'll notice that you have more power and you have a little more acceleration when you're taking off. So the big mistake that people make is they get in their vehicle and they either leave Active Eco on or off. You don't want to do that, because what's happening is in situations where you shouldn't be using it, for example, let's say if you leave it on, situations where you shouldn't be using it, it's on, and what's happening is it's causing your vehicle to have less power. You might be trying to take off after stopped at a stoplight or a stop sign, and you'll notice that it just doesn't have the response it normally has, and it seems like it's slow to pick up. People behind you are getting frustrated, and the acceleration's weak. And on the flip side, you don't want to have it on if you're doing highway driving, because once you're up at a maximum, at your maximum cruising speed, there's no need to have the acceleration on. There's no need to be burning unnecessary fuel if you don't have to. And that's where you would want to turn it on, because now you're just coasting and everything is just kind of keeping things moving, and you want it to be using the least amount of fuel, which in return saves you money. Now, this mode increases your fuel efficiency. And basically when you have this turned on, you can expect an increase in your miles per gallon from the transmission shifting gears to a lower RPM, a different throttle response, and in some vehicles even shutting off the engine when at a complete stop. Another thing to keep in mind is that this will not turn off when the car is restarted. So however you have it set, whether you have Active Eco on or off, if you shut the car off, it will always remain however you left it. So it's completely in your hands to activate or deactivate this thing. Another thing to keep in mind when this is activated is, in addition to your accelerator's response being limited, also your air condition performance may also be altered as well. You might notice that that's limited and not how it normally is. Also, the shift pattern of your automatic transaxle will also be affected by that. And in some cases, you may even have some engine noise. So depending on your vehicle, you kind of get to know how the engine sounds. So if you have this on, because of how it's kind of changing the performance, you might also notice that the engine noise might be a little bit louder, but that's normal with this. Now here's a couple things just to keep in mind also when you have this on, is that when your coolant temperature is low, the system will be limited until the engine performance becomes normal. You want to keep that in mind. If you're going, for example, like up hills or anything that requires more power and more gain, the system will be limiting the gain power, and that will also be restricting the engine torque. So be prepared for that. If you have your active eco on and you're going uphill or anywhere where you need more power, you're going to have a little bit of a sluggishness response. So it's not a bad idea. And this is what I do if I'm driving and I'm coasting along and I have it on and suddenly I'm coming off a highway or I'm coming up to a point where I'm slowing down, I'll just shut it off. So that way now when I'm ready to take off or I need more power, I have that power. And then once I get to the operating speed where I want to be at, then just turn it back on at that point and then kick it in. So that way I'm getting a better fuel economy on that. What we're going to talk about is when to use it, when not to use it. I'm going to show some examples of me using it in a stop and go situation in like city driving, and then using it in a highway driving where I'm just coasting along at 55, 65 miles an hour. And we'll also kind of take a look and see the pickup when we take off with it on and when it's off, and you can see the sluggishness when it's on. So I'm going to go ahead now and we're going to show some examples of me driving with it so we can see how it works, and then we'll be back. So we're taking the car out here for a drive, and as you can see here, we're driving in what would be called city driving. We have a lot of lights, so we're stopping at red lights, taking off. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to go ahead and disengage the active eco and turn that off. That way we're not getting any kind of reduction on the acceleration and the performance, because when you're in these situations and you're coming to a stop, you want full power, so that way you can get up and go instead of poking around and dragging it out. So let's see here. We're going to go ahead and show you what it does from a standing point here coming out of a red light and getting up to 40 miles an hour so you can see it for yourself. Now we're going to merge onto the highway here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep the active eco off because we want full power and acceleration and the transaxle performing to its best so we can merge into traffic and get up to a cruising speed quicker. Now once we get up to that speed, now I'm going to go ahead and turn the active eco on. As we see here, the light comes on. We're roughly at around 40 miles an hour, close to 50. So now we're at kind of just a cruising speed. So we don't need a lot of that power in there anymore, and we can now save money with our fuel consumption. And now from a standstill, I'm going to show you, we're going to go 0 to 50, but I'm measuring up to 40 with the eco on and compare it to what we just showed with our active eco off, and you can see how it is kind of more sluggish. Okay, well this pretty much wraps up this video on understanding active eco in your vehicle and being able to use it properly so you get the most out of it, and in return get better fuel economy. I hope this video was informative for you. I hope it helped you out just on understanding what you have in your vehicle and what you don't have. Please send me any questions, comments. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate all the support. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.